and Congress has plenty on its plate in the coming months in dealing with debt, deficits, in the economy. Joining us are Congressman Jim Himes and Michael Grimm, both members of the Financial Services Committee on different sides of the aisle. Where are you today, Congressman Himes? Are you?
I'm in Connecticut, but mainly I'm just overcome by the beauty and elegance of the Sorkin board.
You love it. You know what? And you probably hate it, right, Congressman Grimm? You think it assumes the American people are stupid and need another government program.
I almost didn't come on the show this morning because of that Sorkin board.
There you go. You know, it's great. I get everybody wants me to go to Fox. The people that love me want me to go there. The people that hate me want me to go. I don't know. I don't. They're trying to tell me something here. Hey guys, how is this going to work with the 20% approval for Congress? I figure we'll have the same makeup, Republicans versus Democrats, just everyone will be different if all the incumbents go out. I mean, is that the way it's going to work with Congressman Grimm?
No, we're going to have to see. I don't blame people. People have a right to be upset. They have a right to be disgusted at this point. They're fed up. Enough is enough, and that's what they're saying. Everyone's hurting. They want solutions. They don't want bickering. They want solutions.
But some people are disgusted with, with the spending, and others are disgusted with the Tea Party trying to stop the spending. It depends on where you are. They're both sides of the. Right?
But I think both sides expect us to be able to come together and bring real solutions to the problems that this country faces, regardless of whether you're on the right or the left. America should come first. The country should come first, not politics.
But the problem becomes when the two sides both think that there are very different solutions to these problems. Is there a way to see through and say there are some things we agree on and that we can pass?
Well, believe it or not, I think that's where you start. And in my opinion, the problem with the debate has been that we start with where we disagree. Right. Let's try starting where we agree, even if it's just that we love America and we want our country to have a strong, growing economy again. Let's start the conversation there instead of demonizing each other and demagoguing. Let's start at least with some common ground, which is we have to get this economy moving. We have to get people back to work, period.
Congressman Himes, are there areas where you agree?
Well, we ought to start with the principle of first do no harm, right? What the Congress put the country through in the last 3 weeks with the carnival around the debt ceiling leading to the downgrade and whatnot served nobody's purpose. Guess what? The Tea Party's numbers are down. What was achieved in that? So we ought to first do no harm. And secondly, yeah, we ought to find areas of common ground. And you know what? They are out there. I think all of us agree that we got to keep an eye on our fiscal situation, but that maybe right now nurturing along this hesitant recovery probably should be job one.
Right. I'm curious. This morning we found out who is going to sit on the super committee for the Democrats.
Right.
And I'm curious about your reaction. Kerry's on it, Baucus is going to be on it, and Murray's on it. That leads you to what place? Does something get done or not?
Well, I think, and, I've spoken to leadership on our side, the sequestrations are so severe that I think, at least on my side, the leadership is saying we want to try to find an optimal solution. And the thing that was interesting to me about the Senate picks, which is what we've seen on the Democratic side, were that these were not folks that were involved in Simpson Bowles. They were not involved in the Gang of Six. They're people of national stature. And, a guy like John Kerry is going to look after his legacy, and he's not going to want to be part of a group that achieves nothing. So, look, I was cautiously optimistic.
Okay, so that's the Democratic view. Take me down the other side.
My visceral reaction was a little bit different than that.
Okay.
That it was going to be very party-driven, and we'd be back to where we were recently.
And you think those three individuals are going to be very party-driven?
Well, I think Senator John Kerry will be, for sure. But again, I want to be as optimistic as possible. I tend to be an optimist, and we're going to give it our best shot.
All it takes is one from either party switching sides. One person, because then you have the majority of 7 versus 5. So if you look at one person, who you get to cross the aisle, and that's that.
Right.
If you could pick the three for your side of the aisle, who'd you pick?
Well, I would definitely have Chairman Paul Ryan, just because he lives and breathes these numbers. He knows them inside and out. He understands what needs to be done. So I definitely would have Chairman Paul Ryan on there. And then, I think there's a lot of good people that have a lot of good ideas on the Republican side that, could bring a lot to the table. But I think Paul Ryan definitely has to be a pick.
Is this going to be a situation where the two parties stack the deck with people who are loyal party followers who will not cross the aisle? I mean, is there a chance that there's a deadlock 6-6?
Well, it hasn't been. I mean, again, we've only seen 3 of 12 appointments, right? And you know, John Kerry, presidential candidate, you know, would you call him in the pocket of the Democratic conference? I don't think so. Baucus, very, very senior guy. You know, he's not going to be led around by the nose on this stuff.
Max Baucus, I agree with that. He'll be looking at some of these issues. I mean, Murray's responsible for bringing in a lot of the votes on that side, though.
Yeah, I know less about Murray than I know about the other. You know, as you point out, these are not people who are known to be reflexive in their thinking.
Sure.
Well, I mean, John Kerry immediately labeled it the Tea Party downgrade. I mean, right. Congressman. I mean, you know, he's from Massachusetts. Number 2. I know you're right next door and all, but at least you got a couple of, you know, hedge fund people up there that might take the other side in Connecticut, right?
Well, look, I agree with Mike. You know, I mean, immediately after the downgrade, the first thing you heard was the Republicans calling it the Obama downgrade and the Democrats calling it the Tea Party downgrade, right? I mean, look, I'm with Mike on this. And you know, again, what was achieved in this nightmare? And look, history and the American people will judge who was at fault. But, you know, we got to move on because I'm certainly
But, Congressman, you don't think anything was achieved? I mean, Simpson Bowles, the president let it sit there for 8 months. You don't think anything was achieved by bringing the deficit into focus finally?
No, look, the deficit has been in focus, but what was achieved? A huge blow to consumer confidence. Now, you know, Americans are even more unconfident about their leadership than they were before. And again, you know, the Democrats nor the Republicans came out of this looking good. We got through the debt ceiling, but it was a brutal ride. You know, for the first time in 80 raises, this one had to be the one at this moment in our hesitant recovery.
Secretary of State Clinton told some of our allies that this is exactly the way it's supposed to work. And this is, you know, look at their systems over there. They have 18 governments per year. I mean, we finally, you know, make some sausage and put it together.
And I disagree with my colleague a little bit. I think something has been accomplished here. For the first time, the debate is where it's supposed to be. We have a debt crisis. We are so heavily laden with debt that even the S&P has said, you know, get your act together. So I think it's extremely important that this is the focus. This is what we need to deal with. We have serious economic problems that this country is facing. Look at the housing market. I don't think this economy starts to grow until we deal with the housing market. And the truth is, we haven't dealt with that. They came out with Dodd-Frank that's laden with more rules and regulations that's going to hurt the country more than help it. And it doesn't even mention Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. So we have been talking around the issue for a couple of years now, and for the first time we're actually discussing the real issue. We have too much debt. The system is you know, to some extent broken because we haven't been dealing with our problems, and now it's to the forefront.
Right. Okay, so here's where there's some disagreement with my friend Mike. Look, nobody disputes that the debt is an issue and that we should be dealing with it. But to say that that has got to be front and center when you've got 15 million Americans out of work, Mike, you really think we're going to address this country's fiscal problems with a hesitant recovery and 15 million Americans out of work?
Economy if we don't deal with it? I think it's a big part of why we can't create jobs. You can't get the economy moving again if we don't want to deal with some of the problems that's stifling the economy itself, which is over-regulations, burdensome debt, and so on.
And we spent a year and a half, 2 years on health care before with a lot of people out of work, Congressman, right?
Yeah, but look, if you want to draw the comparison between, you know, now and 2.5 years ago, when I took office in January of 2009, this country was losing 750,000 jobs a year. Right? And, you know, nobody is suggesting that this is an economic nightmare associated with over-regulation other than the Republican Party. We've got an aggregate demand problem in the economy right now and a consumer confidence problem.
Have you spoken, have you spoken to the small businesses out there? Have you spoken to those that create the jobs? They're going to tell you that they're completely over-regulated. If you just look at what the EPA has been doing, Clean Water Act, if we don't dial some of that back, we're never going to be able to compete globally. That's what this comes down to. There's people leaving the United States, companies leaving the United States because of a much friendlier business environment. This country is no longer the land of opportunity. It's not a friendly business environment. If you're not beaten over the head with taxes, you're beaten over the head with regulations. And on top of all that, you have a lot of consumer confidence, a lack of consumer confidence because of the crisis and so on. So,
Mike, you and I both know that the federal tax burden today is lower than it has been since 1958. And you and I both know that the economy is not in trouble because of the EPA. The economy is in trouble because of a financial services meltdown, which you and your attacking of Dodd-Frank would seem to say, let's bring it back.
At this moment, when we start going down this road, I want to thank you both very much for your time. We'll come back and we'll talk more about it and try and find some ways that we can find some agreement between the two sides, too.